We all know that it's best for a pregnant mom to avoid medicine, if possible, because it could be harmful to her unborn baby. And even Tylenol, acetaminophen, because that's the pain medicine that's most prescribed by doctors for pregnant women, and it can adversely affect her unborn baby.
So what's safe? I mean, you can't really find anything that guarantees safety. When you look at the golden arches of medicine, Tylenol, which is thought to be the safest thing that there is on the planet that hasn't got any side effects, turns out to be as dangerous as many medicines that have been pulled off the market.
Well, studies have already shown that it can cause liver problems and GI bleeds and hearing loss. So, what did they find in this new Norwegian study?
Yeah, this was interesting. There was a Norwegian study done by the Institute of Public Health there. It was a long-term study that looked at the use of this drug during pregnancy, and they found that it caused all these effects that Vicky was talking about. It was part of a study that was called the Norwegian Mother and Child Cohort Study that was published in the International Journal of Epidemiology in October of this year. So they found all these things about how children just don't develop normally. They have what's called psychomotor retardation. And to simplify that, what it means is psychologically they have problems because they can have all kinds of challenges like ADD, like syndromes, and they have problems with movement. Their coordination isn't very good, and it's a big issue.
And they have poor communication skills too.
Right.
And they can also have behavioral problems. Nobody wants a child with behavioral problems.
Right. I think it just goes to point out that when we are using medicines for almost anything, but particularly in pregnancy, should really not use them unless there's no other way to do it. I think there are lots of things we can try first that are non-invasive, that don't involve drugs, things like acupuncture and chiropractic if there's problems with pain that's musculoskeletal. Homeopathy is a lot safer than using big drugs. And when you look at the number of deaths every year that we have from drugs, it's around 400,000. That's a huge number.
You have to remember that just because your doctor orders it doesn't mean that it's safe. And it's a shame, many times that women would have a headache. Well, let's say you had a headache for a month and you took Tylenol because the headache hurt you. And then later you had a baby and the child had all these psychomotor problems.
That's right.
You'd probably go back and think, boy, it wasn't worth it. I should have just suffered through the headache. Or instead of suffering through the headache, maybe get some integrative therapies,
Sure.
Get the homeopathy or
Or the
the chiropractic or the photon stimulator.
Right.
Or there's plenty of things, massage and ICID and physical therapy.
Well, I think the problem, Vicki, is that people tend to rely on their doctors because it's like what everybody's used to doing. But when you think about the danger of what we do and 400,000 deaths a year from drugs alone and another 600,000 from all kinds of mixtures of things, and then look at these other safe modalities where there may be 15 or 20 or 30, maybe even 50 deaths a year. It's like they're so many decimal points away that it becomes a joke.
Yeah, and usually we just hear like the negative sides of the alternatives, mostly because the people that do mainstream don't know enough about alternatives, and so they just kind of automatically poo-poo it. But most people that have headaches, for example, it comes from their neck.
Oh, and the other thing is it comes from taking drugs because you become the drug. When you withdraw the drug, the headaches start happening. In fact, that's the most common cause of headaches is drug withdrawal. So we need to think out of the box more. We need to think more about what can we do that makes more sense rather than just assume that because a pharmaceutical company is making a drug and it's approved by the FDA, believe me, there are lots of conflicts of interest there that are scary. That's not the only way to go. I think this integrative approach makes a lot more sense. And even a drug like Tylenol, which seems so innocuous, when you hear all these ads on TV that are saying, yeah, it's the drug that doctors prescribe most for pain. And then you look at the problems like this that develop, it just reminds you that we don't know everything or hardly anything about the major effects of most drugs that we're using in clinical practice.
And especially if you're pregnant, you don't want to harm your baby. Everybody wants a healthy baby.
Right. So lifestyle, is your best medicine. If you follow that and do simple things when that doesn't work, you're going to stay out of a lot of trouble, and chances are your baby's going to be healthier too.